When was the last time you stood in a dealership, looked at a rack of gear, and felt like you were making a real choice? You looked at the Dainese jacket, you looked at the AGV helmet, maybe you looked at a Bell lid and a Fox racing jersey hanging next to each other. Different brands, different logos, different price points, different histories. You weighed them up and you made a decision. I am about to show you that in most cases, you were not choosing between competitors. You were choosing between brands that share the same financial owners, the same private equity firms, the same pension funds, the same asset managers who have never ridden a motorcycle in their lives, and who bought your favorite gear brand the same way they buy parking garages and fast food chains, as a cash-generating asset to be sold to the next buyer at a profit. And I'm going to start with the single most shocking fact in the history of motorcycle gear. In 2025, Dainese, the Italian company that invented the motorcycle back protector, invented the knee slider, invented the wearable airbag that has saved documented lives in MotoGP crashes, the brand that Valentino Rossi trusted with his body for his entire career, was sold. The price was €1. Not 1 million euros, not 1,000 euros, €1, the price of a candy bar in Rome. That is what one of the most storied safety brands in motorsport history was worth after private equity got finished with it. That is where this story starts, and it gets worse before it gets better. Lino Dainese was 20 years old in 1972 when he started making protective gear for motorcycle racers out of a small workshop in Molvena, a town in the Vicenza region of northern Italy. He was not a businessman. He was a rider who believed that the protection available to racers at the time was inadequate and that he could build something better. Over the next 4 decades, he proved it. Dainese invented the back protector, the piece of armor that every rider now takes for granted. His company invented the aerodynamic hump in racing suits. It invented the TIAA airbag system, an electronically triggered inflatable protection system worn inside the suit that deploys in milliseconds when sensors detect a crash. In 2013, Marc Marquez crashed at 337 kilometers per hour, wearing a Dainese airbag suit, and walked away. That technology came from one man's workshop in northern Italy. In 2007, Dainese bought AGV, one of the most respected helmet brands in the world. Founded in 1947, the brand worn by Giacomo Agostini across 15 world championships and by Valentino Rossi across 9. 2 Italian institutions, 1 company, head to toe, 1 vision. Then in 2014, Lino Dainese sold 80% of his company to Investcorp, a Bahraini investment firm, for 130 million euros. His life's work valued at 130 million euros. He kept a minority stake. The financial engineers moved in. Under Investcorp, sales more than doubled to 250 million euros. In 2020, the group acquired TCX, the Italian motorcycle boot specialist. The Dainese portfolio now covered head-to-toe, AGV helmets, Dainese leathers, TCX boots. A complete private equity package ready for the next buyer. In 2022, Investcorp sold the entire group to the Carlyle Group, the second largest private equity firm on earth, with $276 billion in assets under management, for 630 million euros, a nearly 5 times return on their original 130 million euros. Carlyle's plan was aggressive international expansion, more stores, more distribution, US and China growth, scale. It did not work. By 2025, Dainese had accumulated approximately 300 million euros in debt. Not from bad products, not from bad reviews, from the weight of the acquisition financing that Carlyle had structured. In private equity, the firm often uses the acquired company's own balance sheet to fund the purchase, meaning the company you just bought becomes responsible for paying back the money used to buy it. Dainese was spending resources servicing debt that had nothing to do with building better airbags. In July 2025, Carlyle sold Dainese to its creditors. The 2 firms that had been keeping Dainese alive with emergency financing, HPS Investment Partners and Arcmont Asset Management, agreed to cancel the debt in exchange for the company itself. The purchase price was €1. And here is the detail that I personally think captures everything wrong with what has happened to this industry. Arcmont Asset Management, one of the 2 firms that now controls Dainese, AGV, and TCX, is itself controlled by TIAA, the Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association of America, the Retirement Savings Fund for American School Teachers, and university professors. Valentino Rossi's helmet brand is now partially owned by retired American teachers' pension money. I'm not saying that is illegal. I'm not saying the products got worse overnight. I'm saying that the organization now making decisions about the brand that invented the motorcycle airbag is a financial institution whose primary obligation is to generate returns for retired educators. That is the reality of who owns your Dainese jacket and your AGV helmet in 2026. Now here's what I want you to think about. You are standing at the gear wall about to spend $800 on a jacket. You are about to hand that money to a pension fund, and you have no idea, based on the logo on the tag, whether that jacket is actually going to protect you the way the brand's racing history implies it should. The independent safety test data exists. The CE certification breakdown exists. The specific models that actually perform at every price point are documented. I put all of it, every piece of gear buying information I could find that the industry does not want, in one place, into the 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible. Link is in the description, because before the next section of this video, I want you to understand that you do not have to walk into that dealership blind anymore. That is what the Bible is for. Bell Helmets has been making motorcycle helmets since 1954. Roy Richter built the first Bell helmet in a Los Angeles garage. The Bell full-face helmet changed what protection meant for an entire generation of riders. That history is real, and it is earned. Fox Racing was founded in 1974 by Jeff Fox. For 50 years, it has been the defining brand of motocross gear. The jersey, the pants, the gloves, the logos on the backs of champions. Today, both of those brands are owned by Strategic Value Partners, a private equity firm you have never heard of and were never meant to hear of. Here is the chain of ownership that got them there. Vista Outdoor, a publicly traded outdoor products conglomerate, bought Bell Helmets in 2016 as part of a larger acquisition for $400 million. In 2022, Vista bought Fox Racing for $540 million. It packaged both brands, along with Giro cycling helmets, Camelback hydration, and others, into a subsidiary called Revelyst, with the stated intention of spinning Revelyst off as a separate public company. That spin-off never happened. Instead, in October 2024, Revelyst was sold to Strategic Value Partners in an all-cash deal worth $1.125 billion. Bell Helmets and Fox Racing, two of the most historically significant brands in American motorcycle culture, now belong to a private equity firm that also owns distressed assets across retail, manufacturing, and hospitality. Fox Racing has now had two different private equity owners in less than 3 years. Bell Helmets has been bought and sold as part of corporate packages multiple times since 2016. I personally think about what Roy Richter would say if you told him in 1954, while he was building that first helmet in his Los Angeles garage, that 70 years later his brand would be a line item in a $1.125 billion private equity portfolio alongside a fishing brand and a hydration company. It goes deeper than the premium names. The gear hanging on the mid-range rack at your dealer has the same story, just with less famous names involved. Answer Racing, FirstGear, Speed and Strength, Bike Master, Pro Taper, Kuriakien, River Road, Quad Boss, Twin Power. If any of those names are familiar, you have bought products distributed by Tucker Powersports, one of North America's largest motorcycle gear distributors for decades. In 2023, Tucker Powersports was acquired by Turn 14 Distribution. Turn 14's primary business is automotive aftermarket parts, not motorcycle gear. Cars. The 11 powersports brands that Tucker owned, including Answer Racing, FirstGear, and Speed and Strength, are now owned by a company whose core expertise is distributing car parts. That is your gear wall in 2026. At the premium end, a teacher's pension fund and a distressed asset specialist. In the middle, an automotive distributor. The brands with logos that meant something specific are now assets and portfolios managed by people who have never thrown a leg over a motorcycle. I want to stop here because I think it matters to tell you who did not take the private equity money. because those brands exist and they are worth knowing about. Alpinestars is still owned by the Mazzarolo family. Sante Mazzarolo founded the company in 1963 in Asolo, Italy. He built his first motorcycle boot with money he earned playing semi-professional bowling. His family still owns the company today. No private equity, no acquisition debt, no pension fund creditors. What does that independence produce in practice? Alpinestars has more gloves with 5-star Motocap independent safety ratings than any other manufacturer. The Alpinestars Halo Dry-Star textile jacket was the first textile jacket in history to achieve a 4-star Motocap rating. Motocap is an independent Australian testing organization that tests gear without manufacturer involvement and publishes results publicly. Nobody paid for those ratings. The engineering earned them. Shui in Japan, Arai in Japan, both effectively family and management controlled, both with decades-long reputations built entirely on engineering rather than financial engineering. When you buy a Shui or an Arai, the premium you pay goes toward the next generation of helmet development, not toward servicing acquisition debt from a leveraged buyout. I am not telling you to only buy from independently owned brands. I am telling you that the ownership structure of a gear company determines where its resources go, and that difference shows up in independent safety testing over time. Now I need to talk about something the gear industry does not want explained clearly because it has spent a significant amount of money making it confusing. The DOT sticker on your helmet is self-certified. The manufacturer applies it. The government does not independently test every helmet model before it goes on the shelf. You are trusting the manufacturer's own declaration that the helmet meets the standard. The ECE 22.06, the current European standard, is independently tested. A helmet submitted for ECE 22.06 certification goes to a third-party laboratory. It gets dropped. It gets impacted. It gets tested for rotational forces that the older ECE 22.05 standard never even measured. A helmet with ECE 22.06 certification has been independently verified to a higher standard than a DOT-only helmet. The CE ratings on your jacket work similarly. CE Level 2 armor has been independently tested to absorb more impact than CE Level 1. A $250 jacket with CE Level 2 armor in the shoulders and elbows provides more certified impact protection in those areas than an $800 jacket with CE Level 1 armor. The price did not buy you the protection. The engineering did. Here's what that means in practice. A rider who spends $900 on a premium jacket from a private equity-owned brand with CE Level 1 armor is less protected in a crash than a rider who spends $250 on a mid-range jacket with CE Level 2 armor. The logo costs more. The protection costs less. This is exactly the information the industry profits from keeping vague. And it is the reason I built an entire section of the 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible specifically around gear. Not which brands look the best, or which ones sponsor the most MotoGP riders, but which ones actually test well independently. The CE certification breakdown is in there. The ECE 22.06 helmet shortlist is in there. The specific jacket, glove, and boot recommendations at every price point. $150, $300, $500, $800, based on what independent testing shows rather than what marketing claims. If knowing that a $250 jacket can outperform a $900 one changes how you shop, the Bible will pay for itself on your next gear purchase alone. Link is in the description. Let me give you the full picture clearly so you can pause this and reference it. The Dainese Group, which means Dainese leathers, AGV helmets, and TCX boots, is owned by HPS Investment Partners and Arcmont Asset Management. Arcmont is controlled by TIAA, the American Teachers Pension Fund. The company carries approximately 300 million euros in restructured debt from the Carlyle acquisition era. Bell Helmets and Fox Racing are owned by Strategic Value Partners, a private equity firm, which acquired them as part of the Revelis portfolio sale in October 2024 for $1.125 billion. Answer Racing, FirstGear, Speed and Strength, Bikemaster, ProTaper, Koreakin, River Road, Quad Boss, and Twin Power are owned by Turn 14 Distribution, an automotive aftermarket company which acquired them from Tucker Power Sports in 2023. Alpinestars, privately held by the Mazzarola family since 1963. Shui, Japanese, effectively family and management controlled since 1954. Arai, privately held by the Arai family since 1937. That is the gear wall. Now you know who built it and who owns it.